At this time, we'll call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Please take the roll.
Baylor,
Here.
Holman,
Here.
Tarks.
Any persons desiring to be heard by this committee? None. Consideration of the minutes from October 1st.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from October 1st.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, due to extenuating circumstances for the new business, we're going to change the order. The the fire department is going to go first. Chief Zulik.
Got copies in front of you
Mhm.
there. Fourth quarter, one line, pretty much normal quarter. I did put on the toll for 2024, it ended up at 462. Down a little over 100 runs from last year. Part of it is because we do not run with Menominee Falls on MAC response anymore. They've gone to their full-time staffing now. We were actually, any of the responses I do in the falls now is first level. Well, it was a busy quarter there for them. 7 times for 7 different structure fires.
Right, yeah, they got a bunch.
Busy. Personnel wise, we're holding our own. It's dropping again. I've lost 2 more people, one to Germantown and one to Pewaukee so far this year. And but I will admit people are in the application. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, but people I'm losing are firefighter EMTs, people coming in or not.
Right.
That's a 2-year process. They won't get them up to speed.
So when they do come in, do you have them start one versus the other? Like, can they do EMS first, then fire?
I will leave it up to them. Some of them want to just start off on the EMT, the med tech, because they're not interested in the firefighting, but most of them, by the time they go through the EMT and work with us, they decide to do them both.
And the reason I asked that is we're heavy EMT or calls are, for that service.
The EMT is important. The EMT is more schooling and a more, it takes a year to get it to a point, plus get some experience in there. I don't know. I'm not too worried about firefighting. I can get plenty of firefighters. EMT, I'd like to get them. Stuff I haven't the whole of my own on EMTs.
Right, but I mean, if it takes longer than, right, I mean, I think you're on the right path, or you really answered my question.
I'll split them up. I'll see what it is.
Sure.
I'd like to send my EMTs if I can choose if I have them.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them to work in partners.
Yep.
It does seem to help. We'll see how it goes. I did go out to WCTC when they had their expo.
Yep.
And I walked into the hall, I couldn't believe it. Almost every paid department in the state was down there trying to recruit. I mean, it looked like I went to, they're giving away keychains and stuff. Ridiculous.
I find it interesting that we get people that want to do the EMS but are not interested in the firefighting. It was always a big attraction.
Opposite.
Well, and to go into this, they're all basically starting off at the same wage. So what's the incentive of going to Stevens Point as opposed to going to Green Bay as opposed to, to me, it's basically the same job. The pay is within probably a couple grand of each other.
Right, and it seems like a lot of the departments now want paramedic, right? So they're even raising the bar.
You get in and
You're gonna have to go, like, Pewaukee is actually sending, 10 of the 12 that they just hired won't even see the inside of the firehouse. They're just going to school and being paid to go to school. Pewaukee's, spending a lot of money into them. I'm seeing that's kind of thing. And I guess that was my question, right? I mean, we do a lot of EMS, and if it takes longer, I think you're on the right path that you're going to want to start them there because they need more time for that.
I can train the person to do the firefighting. We can take care of that and get them up to speed here.
Yep.
Without having to go and get, it's more for them to get their level 1 state certificate.
Right.
I can get them started. I can teach the SCBA. I can teach all that stuff here in-house. EMT.
And they'll have an easier time for fire one when they go.
And it's adapted to what I'm as opposed to the general courses they get.
Mm-hmm.
out of the college. But we'll see where it goes. And I do have, I mean, I'm at, actually one of my neighbors is in they've started this Hamilton as a school program. They can opt into firefighter EMT in your senior year.
Oh, really?
Well, we can see where this goes. She has family up in West Bend that pulls her into it. And when I see her, I asked how it goes, and she's made it through the firefighter and she's in the EMT now. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah, as soon as they get past, trying to grab them.
Yeah, right.
And our biggest thing is we don't have the ground volume here
Sure.
to generate the interest.
Yeah.
So, as far as the apparatus schools, I had all the pumps were serviced, so that's the last thing for this year. I will admit, and the Hearst equipment was serviced out, so everything's been done, ladders tested, hose tested, everything's been done through the year. We did lose the pressure governor, as I mentioned, on the truck, which is the ladder, and then the primer pump was out, which again, on that 92 is not important because I really don't draft water. Suck out of water tanks.
Mm-hmm.
It won't certify it. But I just had them in last week. They were able, the primer pump's been fixed. And the governor working on trucks on 1990. There are no parts available. But again, both things, the governor too. I don't have that ladder there. I'll hand things off of. It's there for a master stream or for a ladder for a rescue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that important to me, but.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Other than that, the ambulances are fine, they're going through, our training went up, EMS, soft tissue, we had to go over because, we had some updates on our reports and that, triage November, September, was movement deployment, search and rescue, and then we hit, always the end of the year, we hit our extrication. You do that in November, the car and take care of that. We did, just for information, we updated our training now and going to Target Solutions. And that's so it's all ongoing now. Actually, even we're in our refresher right now, EMT refresher. And I have one person that's doing it in person, the rest of us are all doing it online. Everybody seems to like it. We have 40 hours online. You have, so our refresher actually, or our renewal is next year, but we have the year to do it. I've got kind of the 15 or the 40 hours I need already done. Do it at your pace. Certification that way.
I think it's great. I think you're gonna find you can probably get people more compliant quicker when they can do that.
Like, our fire drill for this month is gonna be because the new thermal energy cameras came in and that, and full gas. This gives you a general course of it, and then I can adapt it to the drill. I follow the outline. It opens up a whole lot first.
So is the online stuff is mostly EMS or is it both?
Fire-
It's all-
fire EMS. It's basically, we're the last department that was doing an in-person EMT refresher.
Yeah.
Everybody else is doing it online.
Yeah,
Because
so,
there's no way of bringing 3 shifts of people in, do it together. It's not practical to run.
oh, sure, yeah. No, no.
So, I'm actually very happy with it right now.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes for the rest of the year, but being received.
Yeah.
And most of these guys spend all the time on their phone.
Really?
And then I hit you with, the daytime guys are new, so they kind of went overboard on the calls for the year.
I don't think it's overboard. I mean, really, I mean,
I like it.
I like seeing all this stuff, right? It just gives us a view of what's actually all going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually for a little more EMS stuff, right? So you can see the more of the advanced skills and that get used, but this is what you can see. We have just a barrage of everything. And I will say, ever since Joe Polmacher, who's the chief of police, came back, we're having fires about every 2 weeks.
You brought him with him, huh?
Interesting coincidence. Yeah.
Right? Well, as long as he keeps them in the falls and not here, I'm fine.
I will admit the fire, we had a fire over at Pattern Shop.
Mhm.
Oh,
sprinkler saved that building. Sprinkler plug out.
That's,
They work, yep.
that's good hearing, right?
Walked in that building not expecting to see anything and opened the inner door and
Mhm.
smoke hit me in the face.
Mm.
So, but the sprinkler did its job.
Mhm.
That's also good to hear, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we preach it, or you preach it, right, to business owners and business, building owners about sprinkler systems, and there's a perfect example, right?
The smoke detector, just to keep up, have it hardwired to somebody. I get more complaints from people, no, I don't want to pay to have it monitored. It's your building.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna know anything. This one here, when I drove up to it, I just swore it was just a malfunction alarm. And I went through the office, through the kitchen, and all the way to the back before the smoke hit me. And from the outside, you couldn't tell anything was going on. They're still not working there. Still in the process.
Mm. Excellent.
No, I appreciate it,
Good
chief.
stuff.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be careful.
It's all fixed. The hydrants, it was just an advisory saying when Craig turned it on, it like froze up and they had to use a torch to thaw it out. So, yes. Yes. It- Correct. Yeah, right down, yeah, on the south side, yeah.
That's what I thought I hear.
Yeah, they thawed that one out, yeah. Yep.
That was the word.
Yep.
No. And up to date.
Thank you.
Just takes all that burden off.
Bye.
Travel and all that stuff.
A lot of the companies are using it to further their education
Mhm.
plans off of what they're getting online.
Ready? Go. Good evening, everyone. Provided my reports to all the members, and I'll just go through it. If you have any questions, and a few highlights that I'd like to touch on. So start with personnel updates. We had 2 anniversaries within our department on October 8th. Officer Hu celebrated his 24th anniversary with our department, and Officer Niesenbaum celebrated his 2nd anniversary with our department. Both were hired on the same date, obviously 22 years apart. November 15th, our full-time executive assistant Linda Lamb resigned her full-time position with our department and remains working part-time as a municipal court clerk. So separate from the police department, now with the municipal court. And just to note, since November 15th, and I'll get to our January 15th hire, but we had no administrative support within our department for 2 months over the holidays. So some challenges with that. We got through it, put some extra time, and are happy to have our new assistant in the building. December 7th, Officer Taylor Longruss successfully completed his probationary period, an 18-month probationary period with our department. So we will tonight at the full board meeting acknowledge his accomplishment and welcome him to his permanent status with our department. And then on January 15th, Melinda Davenport began her employment with our department as our new full-time executive assistant. So we're excited for that. We've had a good first week, and we will also welcome her and introduce her to the full board in our meeting tonight as well. We did have over 20 well-qualified applicants for this position. So we went through myself, the captain, and Ben went through, I think we conducted actually 19 full interviews so to get to this point. So I was pleased to see that, and very pleased with the outcome and the person that we have in our department now. There are no recent or ongoing disciplinary issues within the department to the report, so I'll make note of that. Any questions regarding personnel?
No, sir.
Training updates. So the most recent training, all of our members successfully completed our new handgun training and then the state handgun qualification course. So this initial training consisted of classroom training, weapon familiarization, dry fire training, and then live fire training at WCTC range with our new 9mm handguns. So all of our officers, well, obviously the training will continue with our new guns. They're all certified, qualified, and they're all carrying our new handguns that were purchased in 2024. Several of our officers have already attended our annual in-service training, which we send everyone to at WCTC. That's a 3-day, 24-hour training. The remaining of the officers will attend in the spring of 25. It's the same program we run in the fall and the spring. And the topics included there include defense and arrest tactics, ground fighting, ground escapes, low light tactics, legal updates, health and nutrition, vehicle contacts, emergency vehicle operations, so actually driving, and then firearms skills are part of that as well. Captain Benson completed a 16-hour training on public records law at WCTC. There's myself, him, and then Melinda is scheduled to go to that training moving forward. It's an important part of our job and an important function that we get those things right and understand what public records laws are as they're constantly changing, sometimes difficult to navigate. We also had our December training with our Lakes Area Training Group. That's a quarterly training that we do, and we get 4 hours of defensive tactics, which include a taser, OC spray baton, use of restraints for safe transports, handcuffing techniques, and then some scenario training. And we also did live firearms training. Usually when we do our December firearms training at WCTC, we focus on low light tactics because we're in a setting where we can turn off lights. We can create different lighting scenarios. Majority of the time in the winter, our officers are working at night, so it's important that we train in the conditions that we work in. So we have the opportunity to do that in December, and that went very well. Just a note, Officer Ratzloff, he's on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Association for Identification. So that has to do with evidence collection, evidence technicians, property management. He's been serving on the board of directors and continues to represent our department on that professional organization, which is a statewide organization. So he enjoys that, and we're happy to have him on that board. Myself, I was elected to the position of secretary with the Waukesha County Chiefs of Police Association for 2025 at our January meeting. So that will typically consist of a 3-year term, secretary to vice president to president of the association in those 3-year periods. So just starting out in that capacity, I'm honored to be a part of that organization and on the board in that role. And in 2025, all of our training dates have been set for that Lakes area training that we do. And as a group, all of the chiefs of all the organizations and the trainers have agreed to increase our training hours by 8, so from 24 hours to 32 hours moving forward next year. There's no significant financial or overtime impacts on that, and it's a good way for us to get more training for our officers on the potential skills that we need. The addition of the hours, we're looking to add more scenario training and force on force training. Any questions on training? So an overview of the incidents and calls for service, you can see there at the bottom. We either responded or initiated 1,352 calls for service in the quarter. To highlight, we had 24 vehicle crashes that we responded to, including 8 hit and runs. As a comparison, the last quarter, I think we had 11 total crashes that we responded to. So not exactly sure what the correlation is there, but we saw in the fall an increase in crashes. There's nothing to indicate that it's specific to certain areas or traffic enforcement that might help control that. So that's something we always look at, is hey, if we're seeing an increase, for example, in vehicle crashes, is there a location that's causing a problem? Is there enforcement we can do? Is there something that we can do to make it better? It doesn't seem to be a correlation from what I looked at. It was kind of an anomaly that stood out this quarter. And it covers kind of all the calls of service. I did break down in the next section some information that, regarding actual arrests. So when the calls for service we go through, those can be everything from, again, the types of calls that we see where we go, we maybe remediate, maybe we assist the fire department, maybe we would write a report or document a fraud or something that occurred, but there's not always enforcement action that's taken. But when we actually go on the calls for service where we have arrests, I broke those down as the types of arrests. You can obviously see what they are there. The majority of these arrests are state cases that are referred to the district attorney's office, including several that involve narcotics and firearms. And then as far as the evidence seized, just to break it down, there were 6 firearms that were seized. Individuals were all charged with crimes in relation to those guns that they were in possession of, 192 grams of marijuana, and then we had 2 separate felony methamphetamine arrests, small amounts, but we are seeing things like methamphetamine coming through the community So those are the criminal charges, and then we wrote 441 traffic citations in the morning.
Are your firearms, are any of them just traffic stop firearm, or are they all related with the drugs?
I wouldn't say they're all related to the drugs. That's typically pretty common, but they were all, I believe all these arrests and seized firearms were self-initiated incidents, so typically traffic stops. I know at least 2 of them were stolen out of different jurisdictions from around the state. So those were recovered, and again, all the individuals were charged. As far as our squad updates go, I think everyone was notified, but our 2013 is no longer in service. It had a good run, but the engine ultimately failed, and the repair cost was close to $10,000 to replace the engine. So that's not going to happen. It'll be sold unknown amount at this time, but it will be sold as is without any repairs being taken place on it. 724, so our newest squad, the 2024, was placed into service in December. There was a slight delay because we're waiting for a laptop or an MDC mobile data computer for the squad car from Waukesha County, who sets up and programs our computers, and that's our only viable option for that to happen. So there was a little bit of delay with that. We still don't have that computer, but I believe it's almost completed. So what we did is we took one of the computers out of our older car, put it into the newer one, so we get the newer squad in service, and not put as much wear and tear on the older car, which is our 2019 squad car, which is still in service, but currently not a computer. So our order was placed for our 2025 Ford squad car. We're working on ordering the parts to outfit the new squad when it arrives, and we anticipate hopefully taking delivery of that in the first quarter of 2025, although we don't have an exact date from Ford. But their turnaround is much better than it was, for example, 2 years ago. We were waiting like a full year for our car, so we'll hopefully get that new squad in service in the first quarter of 2025.
Blushing.
Are you anticipating having a lag in the computer for the 2025?
No, so when we added the 24, we were effectively adding a car to our fleet or a marked car.
Okay,
So when we have the 25, we'll be getting rid of our 2019.
okay,
So we'll remain with 4 cars, and we'll then have 4.
pull it out,
So we'll be
okay,
able to rotate them.
all right,
So
makes
it's not a situation where.
makes sense, okay. Because we added a 4th car.
Yep.
That we didn't have to take parts from.
Correct.
All right,
And then just a couple miscellaneous items. We did purchase at the end of 2024 a new lock cabinet that we will keep in our evidence room. So our secure evidence room, right, per policy, only has access to our evidence custodian and one supervisor. And that's for basically best practices of not having access to the evidence room. For example, I don't have access to our evidence room. What we added was a locked storage container for our high value items. So mostly drugs, any currency that's in there, jewelry. So basically creating a 2-tier system so that we know that those items are safe. And they're basically locked inside of a very secure lock. I did attach some citizen compliments. It's something that we get from time to time from citizens on calls that we go through. Most of the time, we tell them good job, and we kind of leave it at that. So I thought I'd just like to share some of those with you all, and just to make it noted that our officers, besides the fact that I stand up here and say they're doing a good job, how we do have citizens that appreciate the things that we do, and sometimes they take the time to thank. Compliment our department, fire department, and other members of the village.
That's great.
Just thought I would include some of those.
That's
like
excellent.
to see that, I definitely like seeing that.
A good job for our officers on that. And then I included 2 letters from the state of Wisconsin from Wisconsin Chemical Testing Section. In 2024, I applied for 2 grants related to preliminary breath test devices and materials. So the state was offering this. You know, as a small agency, for example, $1,000 expense to buy new equipment like this, it's certainly something we consider. So, I applied for the grants and we received the grant to receive one new preliminary test device and then new materials related to calibration, and maintenance of the devices. So, we currently have 2 operational. This will add another one, to our fleet, so to speak, as we continue to have more officers on the street at more times. This again will prolong the life of those ones that are currently probably 4 or 5 years old. So I was pleased that the state granted us this award, and we should see those in. Lastly, our skate land summary. As you can see, actual calls for service, what we were called to skate land. There's only 3 calls for service in the quarter. 2 of those were assist EMS or fire type calls. We did do 12 extra patrols where we actually call out at the location, you know, also get out on foot, go and talk to people inside the business. There's 1 dispute that led to no enforcement action. And then, as you're aware, and I think is on the full board agenda tonight, Skate has requested an amendment to their conditional use permit, basically increasing or extending hours of the skating session from 8:30 to 9 p.m. Reasons to alleviate issues during their intermission between afternoon and evening. And I support this request and don't see any issues related to it. Any questions?
I like your report.
Yeah, I
Excellent.
don't think so. Yeah, no, thank you very much for putting this thorough report. And I really, and again, Mark said it before, I really like that I think everybody here, you're giving them the attaboys and making it, not just you saying it, but actual
Mhm.
proof that citizens are thanking you guys, and to your credit with wanting to reach out to the community more and more. So I think that shows.
One last thing, I did have here, and it's in the full board agenda related to our December monthly report. So I guess I'll just bring it up in case there's any questions. We don't really discuss it in the full board meeting, but I put together a comparative overtime analysis from 2023 to 2024. I started looking into it for my own information and knowledge, right? We track where our overtime hours are being spent. So, by category, whether it's related to someone being at training, someone calling sick, someone being on vacation. A lot of those are unavoidable. But I did look through it, and we did see a decrease of a total of 318 and a half hours in overtime in 2024. Some areas more significant than others. There were actually 2 areas where overtime increased, one being in court. We saw an increase, and one being in patrol coverage related to sick days, but that had to do mostly with injury. All other areas are overtime decreased. And so I'm going to continue to track this, but I think it's important just to note, one, from a fiscal standpoint, I think it's obviously
Sure.
a good thing.
Yeah.
But I think we're seeing the residual of having our 9th position and being fully staffed for almost a full year. What it's doing is creating less vacancies or hardships on the department where we're forced into weeks and weeks of overtimes on every shift. So I think it's just important to know, and it's something to track, and I'm happy to see that trend.
That is, and I think, and if I recall, that's something that came up in the discussion way back in the process of adding that officer, that it could pay dividends in that regard. And there's always going to be fluctuation if somebody's hurting or out and different things like that, but I think it's a reasonable consequence. It's not going to pay for itself per se, but definitely there's some payback with it, some benefits. So, yeah.
And I think there's a direct relation. Again, for example, we send somebody to training. We now have more people that are likely here working, so we don't necessarily have to cover all of that by overtime. We have people that are on duty with that extra position. So
Yeah.
it's working out.
That's terrific.
Good to hear.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's at 5:44.